2-2, Hitman 2-3. Hitman 2-3, 2-2, go ahead. Roger, hey, I got two unknowns moving along this berm that's over here to our right side. I can't see what they got going on, but they're acting kind of funny. Roger, checking. Yeah, you guys should be able to get...
Alright guys, let's talk about PL tones or privacy tones, CTCSS. They're most commonly called PL tones or privacy tones. Most two-way radios have 38 CTCSS codes, which stands for Continuous Tone Coded Squelch System. So if the tone is not received by the receiving radio, it will not open the squelch, or the audio, you could say, to allow the transmission to come through. The transmitting radio has to transmit the subaudible tone. That's what the CTCSS tone is. It's subaudible. So if it's not transmitting that tone, and the receiving radio is set up to only receive transmissions from a radio that is transmitting the subaudible tone, then it will come through. If it's not set up, it will not come through. You could see it on the signal meters. If the radio has a signal meter, you could see the signal is there, but it's not going to open up the audio to where you can hear it. So both the receiving and transmitting radios must be set to the same CTCSS code, or it will appear that the radio is not receiving the transmissions. So that being said, these PL tones or privacy tones, the CTCSS tones, are not private. Anybody can listen to what you are saying, whether you have CTCSS tones enabled or disabled while you're transmitting. So if you're transmitting with a CTCSS tone, it is not private. Anybody out there can listen to what you're saying. My take on CTCSS tones is don't use them, because if there's somebody else on the channel that's using the same channel that you are, that's not part of your team or your squad or whatever, if you're not using them, you'll be able to hear what they're saying and maybe move channels, or they'll move channels, whatever. But either way, you'll both teams will be able to hear what each other is saying. Don't use PL tones. There's two cases where I would use a PL tone. One is whenever you're talking into a repeater, such as an amateur radio repeater or a GMRS repeater. A lot of times those repeaters are set up to where they will not receive your transmission unless you have CTCSS tone enabled. And it just eliminates the repeater from retransmitting interference out into the airwaves. So most repeaters have CTCSS tones enabled. In that case, you only need to enable the CTCSS on your transmit side of the radio. You do not need it set up on the receive side. So if you're going in the repeaters, only set up your CTCSS tone to get into the repeater. That's all you need. The other issue that you might run into where you want to use a CTCSS tone is if you're getting some interference, some intermod, what they call it. It's intermodulation. It's interference from adjacent channels, from harmonics. You hear a lot of paging systems that in a really, really dense RF area will bleed over into adjacent channels, and you'll get some intermod that way. So you can use the PL tones at that point to help eliminate listening to that. Now, whenever you're receiving somebody, you still might, even when they're transmitting and you're receiving them with the CTCSS tone on, you still might hear that intermod underneath their voice a little bit. It's just coming in with their signals, all it's doing. But when they're not transmitting, it will eliminate you being able to hear that intermod or that interference coming through. So those are really the only two instances I would use PL tones. Other than that, I like to keep my PL tones turned off, the CTCSS tones turned off. That way, if there is somebody else on the channel, they can hear you, or you can hear them. I'm sorry. And if somebody else is trying to talk to you, and you have your receive CTCSS tone on, and they don't have the right tone programmed into their radio, you're not going to be able to hear them. And hopefully they don't have their receive CTCSS tone on, so you could be able to talk back to them. So hopefully that made sense. The thick of it is, don't use PL tones unless you're getting interference or you're trying to get access into a repeater, such as an amateur radio repeater or a GMRS type repeater. Like I said, those are the only two instances I would use PL tones. So, all right, guys, let's dive into this radio. What we're going to do is we're going to go into the menus here. We're going to talk about menu number 1 and menu number 5 on the PRC-152. Why they don't have them as menu 1 and 2, I don't know. It's the firmware thing, how it's set up, and don't believe you can change the firmware on these either. So it is what it is. So this is going to be menu 1. So there's menu. Okay, so there's menu 1. So you could see right there, that is menu 1. So, and then if you go up to menu 5, right there, menu 5, those are the two menus that we are going to be talking about today. So let me back out of here. All right, so this radio is completely fully reset. These are the default frequencies in the radio whenever you reset it. So 146.550 and 435.550. Those are the two default frequencies, I guess you could say, that they have for this radio. They're both amateur radio frequencies. All right, so we're going to get into menu number 1, which is going to be your receive CTCSS tone. So you go to there, hit enter, it's going to say off, and then if you use your up and down arrow keys right here, up and down, it will show you all. I think there's 32 of them, I believe. So I'm just scrolling through to show all of them to you. And it goes right back to off. So it just makes a full loop there. So for simplicity's sake, we're just going to set it at 67 Hertz. So scroll to the 67 Hertz and hit your enter button. And now that is set up for receiving on a PL tone of 67 Hertz. All right, so now we're going to go to menu number 5. And we're going to do the same thing. So go to menu number 5, hit enter to select it and go into it. And off. And I'm not going to scroll through all of them. It's the same exact tones. So we'll go back down to 67 Hertz. Hit enter to set it. All right, and now it is set into the transmit and receive for CTCSS tone 67 Hertz. And if you look right here, the T, that means the tone is set. So if we go back in, there's the transmit tone. We're going to turn that off. So we'll go back down the menu number 1. We're going to turn that off. And the T goes away, so there's no T there now. So, all right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you. Actually, I'm going to set this back to 67 Hertz. All right, that's set, and you can see the T came back on. So now we're going to go up to menu 5, and we're going to set that one 67 hertz. So now, so we'll back out all the way. All right, the CTCSS tone is now enabled on both transmit and receive. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do a demonstration of how this is going to work. All right, so I got my handy dandy little Baofeng radio here. So I need to change the frequency on it. Okay, so now we have our handy dandy little Baofeng set up on 146.550. There is no transmit tones on this radio whatsoever, or receive tones. So you can hear, or you can see, use my little pen, that the signal strength meter is showing. I have the volume turned all the way up on it, and I'm talking into the other into the Baofeng, trying to transmit. So you can see that it does not. It's receiving it, but you can't hear what I'm saying. So now we're going to go into the Baofeng's
DCS.
Oop, don't want that one.
Menu. DCS. Menu. DCS. Confirm.
There it is. CTCSS off. Whoops. I'll go back down.
CTCSS.
All right, 67 hertz. The T is CTCSS. 67 hertz.
Confirm.
All right, so now we have the CTCSS set up in the Baofeng to be able to be transmitted on that 146.550. You can hear it coming through now.
Tested 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So now I'm going to show you that because the Baofeng does not have a receive tone enabled, it's still going to be able to hear me even though the PRC is transmitting that so-called privacy tone. It's not private. So here's the demonstration of that.
Test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, so the receive PL tone was not enabled on the Baofeng. So we'll go back down. Oop, there it is. And you can see it right there. Receive CTCSS is off. All right, so now we're going to set this to on. Go back down.
CTCSS.
And we're going to put it at 67 hertz.
Confirm.
Now you'll still be able to hear me because this radio here is transmitting 67 hertz.
Test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So there's the demonstration of the CTCSS and how that works and how it doesn't work. So just because people say it's private, it's not private. Nothing about it is private. It is not voice encryption. It's nothing encoded, so to speak. All it is a subaudible tone that is transmitted along with your voice that you really can't hear over the radio. So whenever the receiving radio is set up to receive that tone and block out all the other interference and other people that might be on the channel that are not part of your team, it's only there to open up the audio, open up the squelch of the receiving radio. So we now have CTCSS set up on both of these radios, and they can both talk to each other. And this one can talk to this one, so on and so forth. So that's about it for CTCSS. So we'll go back through the menus again just to kind of rehash it. So it's going to be menus number 1 and menu number 5 for CTCSS. So we're going to go back down to menu 1, enter to go into it, and we're going to scroll down to off. So we're turning everything off now. So now we're going to go up to menu number 5 where it says T for transmit CTCSS. Go into that, hit the down arrow, hit off, hit enter to set it. So now we have no transmit or no receive CTCSS tones, PL tones, whatever you want to call them, enabled into this radio. And like I said, this is the way you should be running your radios, unless you're getting interference that you don't want to hear, or you're trying to get into an actual repeater that has a receive PL tone enabled to get into that repeater. So one more time to turn them back on, hit enter twice to go into the menus. We'll start down in menu 1. So to set it, and to turn it off, just scroll down. So we'll go up to menu number 5. I'm hitting the plus arrow. And I went too far because I wasn't watching. So we're going to hit enter to go into it. Up to go to scroll through the frequencies, the subaudible tones. Hit enter again to set it. So we're going to go back into it. So you can use your up arrow to go through the menu functions. Hit enter when you get to the one you want to go into that, and scroll down to off to turn it off. And you can see there's no T over here saying that the tone is enabled. Just to show that to you one more time. That's going to make a liar out of me. So maybe that was only on receive. Okay, so the T is only for receive. So if you see the T on there, that means your receive CTCSS is enabled. So we'll go back in, turn all that off again, make sure that's off. It's not. So all right, and that's it. So that is it for the CTCSS tones. All right, so now we're going to talk about digital coded squelch, or digital coded squelch, or DCS. And there's 2 versions of DCS. There's DCS-N and DCS-I. N stands for normal, I stands for inverse, and it does just what it says. DCS is a digital form of the privacy codes, or the CTCSS codes. So DCS and DPL, they're the same thing. DCS is a digital squelch scheme set by the transmitter to control the unmuting of the receiving radio speaker, just like CTSS is. So instead of sending an analog tone, the subaudible tone, like CTCSS does, DCS signals are digital square wave signals, where the square wave signal represents 1 and 0 data bits. So if you picture, if you know what a square wave sine wave looks like, the high portion of the sine wave is 1 and the low portion is 0. And there's about 83 different codes for digital coded squelch. In this radio, it's going to be menu number 2, which we're already on, and then menu number 6. So, like I said, you could use this just like CTCSS tones, except now it gives you a little bit more leeway. Again, don't use these unless you're getting interference, or you're trying to get into a repeater that is utilizing these tones to allow access to that repeater. So it's the same thing as CTCSS. So we're going to go in, and it's going to go off, and then you can scroll through all the different DCS tones. Goes up into the 500s, I think. A little higher. Oh, there it was. So it goes up to 754. So D754N, normal. So we're going to go off, and then we'll just do D023, normal, and set it. So now we're going to go up to menu number 6. And again, whenever your receive tone, whether it's CTCSS or DCS, digital coded squelch, that T is going to be there. It's not going to differentiate between the two. It's just going to let you know that you have some kind of a tone set. So then we're going to do the same thing. You typically want your transmit and receive tones to be the same. So there they are. They're set in there. And we're going to turn them back off. Go back down to menu number 2. And turn that off. So we'll start from the beginning on this one again, just to reiterate it. So hit your menu button twice and scroll until you hit the number 2. That's your receive DCS tone. Hit the enter to go into it, and it's going to show that it's off. And use your plus or minus to find the code, the digital code that you want to use. So we'll just go back up to the 023N. Hit enter, and now it is set. And then as you can see, the T is set on the screen. So we're going to turn that one back off. And then we'll go back up to number 6. So hit enter to go in. It shows that it's off. The plus to go into it. To select it, hit enter. And that sets it into the transmit now. To turn it off, hit enter. Scroll down, hit enter again, and now it's turned off. So, and that's it for that one. So the other one we talked about was DCSI instead of DCSN. DCSI is the inverse. So we'll go into that one. It's the exact same thing, except now it has an I instead of an N. It's just giving you the exact opposite in the binary system of the encoding of it. So instead of a 1 and a 0 bit, it's going to give you a 0 and a 1. So it's just another option to use in addition or in lieu of CTCSS or DCI or DCSN. You could use DCSI. It doesn't matter. So I don't know of any repeaters anywhere that are set up for DCSI. There are a few for DCSN. If you want to use it, you can. But like I said, the only time you should have these privacy tones, these private lines, these CTCSS, these DCS tones enabled is when you're trying to eliminate listening to interference that's breaking your squelch constantly, or you're trying to get into the repeater. Otherwise, do not use privacy tones, and don't ever think that they're actually private, because they're not. And that's it. So that's going to do it for today. For the privacy tones and digital coded squelch tones for the TRI PRC-152. So The next one, I'm not sure which ones we're going to do yet, but I will be working on that one here soon, and hopefully getting that out in the next couple days as well. So thanks for joining me. Hope this was informative. Hopefully I explained everything well enough. If you have any questions, put it in the comments. My email is on my about page of my channel. If you have questions, you want to link up to ask me questions or whatever, feel free to send me an email. I might be a little slow in getting back to them sometimes, so give me a couple days or whatever, and I will respond. So other than that, I think that's it for today. It's going to be a long video. All right, guys, take care and be safe, and go get your radios out and practice with the menus on here that we've gone through so far. Be safe.